and welcome to Valley Sports Telegram presents the Sports Telegram. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. We're still talking football, but understand we're working behind the scenes to bring you so much more. But before we roll into it, I'm joined, as always, by Kenny Hodges and Kaylie Harden. How are you guys doing tonight?
It's Victory Wednesday, so feeling good.
Well, it's Victory Wednesday for some, not for all. But you know what? Regardless, we're in the second half. We're heading down that. We're approaching that straight away. The playoff picture's starting to clear up a little bit. We've got storylines. We've got major breaking news that we got to kind of get into coming out of some of the exciting action from this weekend. And we're going to jump right into it. So coming out of week 10, as we always start on the TST, we begin with our Homer segment. And this week is one of those weeks where one of our teams, mine, the New York Jets, faced another one of our Homer teams, the Las Vegas Raiders, in a game that was offensively challenged because both teams have really good defenses. Antonio Pierce, his second game at the helm since they made the change, have the Raiders continue to look like a completely different team. We'll start with you, Arshavir, with the Raiders. Give me your thoughts on that Raiders-Jets game and that Raiders victory 16-12. What are you feeling about your team, and what are you feeling about their prospects kind of going forward before I get into the mess that is my New York Jets?
Well, it's funny because the first thing you want to say when you're talking about a game that only featured one touchdown is it was difficult to watch. But this was not difficult to watch because the Raiders were showing promise kind of throughout, as opposed to if someone else was at the helm. I believe this probably would have been 16-12 the other way, or maybe not even 12. So there were encouraging moments. I'm not yet sold on this kid as the future of the franchise at quarterback, but there's pieces all over this team. And look, they got two tough matches 2 weeks in a row. They got Miami this weekend. They got KC next weekend. And, like I said last time, and due to technical difficulties, that did not air. So let me say it again. If the Raiders finish 8-9, I'll be happy because they have a very tough schedule remaining. Two of them are KC and Miami. So, I'm not disappointed at all.
Myself, on the other hand, I am disappointed, but it's only because we knew it, again, as I say every week when we kind of get into the Jets. And I don't really get into the Jets too much because, like I said, it's one of those situations where it feels like it's an incomplete project because we knew what the Jets were supposed to be this year. They were supposed to, and what they show you every week. This is a top 5 defensive unit in the league. The way these guys, we go 8-9 deep on the D-line. We make life miserable for every quarterback we face, whether it's Aiden O'Connell or it's Pat Mahomes. We coming after your ass in waves. Our D-line is never tired because we can literally take the front four off and put in a completely different set of D linemen and just get after the quarterback. Like the fact that we have Solomon Thomas is he's like 5th or 6th in the rotation is absolutely stupid. The linebackers get after you. We know about Sauce Gardner, that play he had in the first quarter where he hunted Devontae Adams down like a hyena across the field and prevented what should have been an easy first down, but because you can't get away from the guy. But at the same time, as I'm pumping up the defense, it's very frustrating to know that we are holding teams under 20 points and we still can't win games. The Jets this year are 4-1 in games in which we just score 20 points. If we just get to 20, we'd be 7-2. That's where we are this season. And the part about it that's frustrating as a Jets fan is you can't help but look and wonder, man, if Aaron Rodgers was playing, what would this season look like for us? But at the same time, our O-line is terrible. Like I said, Max Crosby we might as well have just set him up a pillow and a blanket in the backfield because he was there all night long. Like that, we had no chance of stopping that man from getting back there. And it's hard for me to even put a lot of it on Zach Wilson because if you watch that game, he didn't play terrible. Yeah, he had that pick in the fourth quarter when we were driving for a chance to win the game. But overall, when you watch him, he's not making the big mistakes that he's made in years past. That shows you there's a progression to his game, that he's maturing a little bit. He shows you in flashes. Sometimes he'll make an off-platform throw that's like, holy shit, this kid is like, there's something there. But we just haven't been able to finish drives and put, like I said, it's kind of indicative of what the Jet season has been. The fact that they scored 4 times, we scored 4 times, but we lost because we can't put up 7s. I think it's something crazy, like 40, 41 straight possessions. We haven't gotten the ball in the end zone. You can't win football games like that. You have to win. You're only going to win games if you put the ball in the end zone. If you just settling for 3s, you're going to get beat. So supposedly this week there was a players only meeting. Michael Carter got cut because he made some mistakes in his game, and I guess he didn't take ownership of it. So they decided, well, then you need to get the hell out of here because that's not the attitude that's going to help us get it done. Hopefully some pride shows up when we go to Buffalo and try to pull off another win against Buffalo again. But I mean, again, we'll see. At this point now, even though we're not out of the playoff chase, but at this point, because we've lost to the Chargers, we've lost to the Chiefs, we've lost to now the Raiders, those are 3 teams we'd have to jump to get in. So it feels, even if we went on a run, it feels unlikely to kind of jump over everybody. So at this point, I'm just hoping that we put it together. We wreck a few teams along the way. And who knows if this miracle of Aaron Rodgers getting back this season happens, it happens. But otherwise, this season is exactly what Kaylee's hat says. This year, it's a Jets fan. So we'll spend a couple minutes on your other team, Arshavir. Well, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Again, they were playing against a quarterback who's still living at home with his mama. She's still making his bed, and Tommy DeVito. There's not much there to talk about in terms of the Giants other than the fact that a lot of my Giants friends back home are okay with what happened in that game, and they hope it happens the rest of the way because they feel like the only way to salvage this thing is to somehow end up with Drake May or Caleb Williams at the end of this season. What are your thoughts on the Cowboys? And more importantly, do you think that the Cowboys have sort of turned the corner on this season and are ready to sort of kind of get back into that Super Bowl contending mix that we've thought they should be when the season began?
Maybe I'm a pessimist, but you can't beat up on the Giants and all of a sudden be world beaters. I mean, there's dialogue of, Dak is the best quarterback in the league at the moment. I'm like, really? Pump some brakes here. Like, I'd love that narrative to be true, but he beat up on the Giants. Birmingham probably could have beat up on the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
It was just one of those games where they did what they were supposed to do. They controlled the game from beginning to end. There was almost no letdown. Heck, I think most of the fourth quarter was played by their reserves. It was interesting because normally you don't see that happen in the NFL, right? They keep the starters in. They don't really pull up to go to the reserves. But in that kind of a game, you're not looking to embarrass them, I guess. So, but here's my thing. They face the Eagles on December 10th. They got 3 games in between. Panthers, Commanders, and Seahawks. They need to go 3-0 before they play Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I can tell you, if they're 3-0 with Philly going to Dallas,
yeah, if they're 9-3 going into that game.
Yeah, at that point, I will say yes. Right now, and for the next 3 weeks, you're going to get the exact same answer. is they're working towards it, but they haven't shown enough.
All right, so before we move into headlines, I got one more question to test your homerism. I got one more question. CeeDee Lamb is on a historic tear right now. First player in NFL history to have 3 consecutive games with 10 plus catches, 150 plus yards. Haven't been done. He looks ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I were to ask you, how many receivers in the league are you taking before you take CeeDee Lamb? How many receivers you got before him? Because here's the thing, right? Like we talked about, the Giants aren't exactly the toughest of competition, but he has sort of looked like a guy who's ready to take that next step and really be in that tier of upper echelon, top tier receivers. My question is, where exactly is he? I have him pretty high, but I don't know if I'm taking him before I take a Jamar Chase. I don't know if I'm taking him before Justin Jefferson or AJ Brown. Where do you have him?
I have him top 5.
I
have him top 5. I can't. I honestly, as much as I want to make him number 1, right? Yeah, you said Jamar Chase. Hell, the Sun God is doing godly things on a weekly basis. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then you got AJ. Yeah, so there's this group right there, and he's among them. But I mean, here's the thing: you gave me any of those 5, right? I'll say Lamb, Chase, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams. You give me any one of those 5 on a fantasy team, and I'm doing a happy dance. I just happen to have 2 of them. So
yeah, no, I will say I think what puts him in that conversation is because there are maybe 1 or 2 of those guys in that upper tier that go across the middle fearlessly the way he does. Like this guy has no fear, no qualm. He will take a slant, bounce off 2 guys, somehow get outside, get up the field. I think that's a special talent because there's a lot of guys that go across the middle. They got alligator arms. He ain't one of them. That guy will stick his nose in there. He proves he's a tough football player because a lot of his damage is done from the slot as opposed to being lining up outside. So, yeah, I wanted to see where you had him. If you would have said unequivocally number 1, I would have had to call you out. But hey, you approached it.
I think I've proven over the last month, 2 months, or however long we've been doing this, that I'm a hardcore homer, but I'm also realistic. So it is there, but no. Now if this was in the 90s, I would have unequivocally taken Michael Irvin over Jerry Rice.
No, it's okay. Listen, I appreciate you being objective, but not me. Garrett Wilson over everybody. But moving right along. Moving into NFL headlines, boy, there was a lot to talk about coming out of Week 10, and this is where our lovely co-host Kaylie will get her crack at the action because we're going to start right at the top. Probably the biggest story, the biggest game coming out of the weekend was the Browns win a thriller over the Baltimore Ravens, a game that looked like the Browns were dead in the water with 9 minutes to go in that 4th quarter, and somehow just by the sheer will of, as we know now, being able to will yourself through some pain, and just Myles Garrett just refusing to let this team lay down. They come back, they beat the Baltimore Ravens. Kaylie, how do you take me through your emotions of watching that game this weekend, and what do you think it means going forward as we've also learned coming out of that game? It became bittersweet that we learned that Deshaun Watson has a broken bone in his shoulder. He is done for the rest of the year, has to have surgery immediately. So even though the Browns are sitting at 6-3 coming off the heels of a great win, Now they have to piece the rest of the season together with PJ Walker and Dorian Thompson-Robinson at quarterback. Give me your thoughts on what the Browns did this weekend and what you expect going forward from this team.
So I thought you never ask. I've been sitting here so patiently trying to keep my mouth shut. But I have a tradition. If I haven't mentioned it enough already, I go out to my favorite Cleveland Backers bar every Sunday. I order myself a plate of pierogies and I enjoy myself a Browns game. And on the weeks that I don't go, they lose. This has happened like almost every time I don't go because I'm either out of town or have something else going on that day, they lose. So this is like one of my weird superstitions. So this Sunday I'm like getting ready and sometimes I don't make it until halftime, like, whatever. But this is one of those Sundays. So I'm getting ready and I'm looking at the score and I see the game just started. It's already 14-0. I'm like, Jesus, is it even worth it? And so I do my tradition, and towards the middle of the game, this is how I've always watched Browns games. We're usually down or just on the cusp of being able to tie things up. And so I'm going through my usual Browns emotions of being like, they have a chance. I'm going to hold out hope. I think they can do it. And then we get to the fourth quarter and it's the same. And I'm like, oh God, like, I think I've just dug myself into a emotional hole yet again. But we pull it together. And then we get the stop, which was insane. And we get all the way to the other end of the field. And it was like nail biting because, Kevin Stefanski doesn't do any favors by walking around the sideline with his like nose in the pamphlet, like acting like he doesn't know what he's doing. And you're like, do they know what they're doing? Is this intentional? Yeah, it's just like that. It's like he's trying to like cover his voice or his lips from people seeing like, what the fuck are we supposed to do here? Like, It's a little bit what's it called? Like anxiety filling. Regardless, they get to the point where it's like, okay, all we need is a field goal. There's less than a minute left in the game. But the Browns, again, are notorious for effing these kinds of things up. But I'm sitting here like, honestly, we barely deserve to win this game. So if we hit this field goal, we have nothing but gratitude. If we don't hit the field goal, we should still be grateful that we had a chance to try. But then they hit the field goal and the rest is history. But it was amazing to see us beat the Ravens. I had no faith that we even had a shot because of knowing that Deshaun Watson has been battling what seems like an ongoing injury. And the Ravens and Lamar Jackson are looking really good. And they looked really good in the first half of the game. But I think the Browns defense is just, in the years past, we've been a 3-quarter team. Not this year. We are a 4th-quarter team this year, especially on the defensive side. And that showed in this game for sure. Perfect example. And on top of it, I think that it's gotten to a point where we're able, even though all the other teams in the AFC North are they play very similarly. They all have very strong defenses. But this year we've been able to wear teams down more so than I think ever before. Like, we're really getting to a point where we're outlasting teams on the defensive side, and that's been what's winning us a lot of these games.
Absolutely. So the question coming out of that though is, now we know what has happened, and kudos to him. Like, obviously for a myriad of reasons, a lot of them brought on himself. The spotlight has been on Deshaun Watson this year because he's got a contract that's quite frankly an albatross. They're going to be paying him a lot of money, so that puts a lot of weight and expectations. And there have been times in some of those games that they, like the Pittsburgh game, for instance, earlier this year, where he just kind of fumbled the bag in times when they needed him to sort of kind of step up and be that guy. But this was a game, especially now knowing that apparently he hurt that shoulder in, I think they said, the early part of the second quarter. So he played 3 quarters throwing the football with a broken bone in his shoulder. And then at one point, I know he was nursing the ankle because he got his ankle rolled up on. So the guy really sort of kind of gutted it out, and credit to him for that. But now knowing that you don't have him, they're still sitting here at 6-3. They're still in the play. The playoffs started today. They'd be in. But now you know Deshaun Watson. You've got PJ Walker, who looked okay when he was forced into action. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, less okay than PJ Walker at times, but he's also a rookie trying to figure things out. In your heart of hearts, with how great the defense is, where are you in terms of feeling like this team can still kind of hold out and steal one of those playoff spots? Do you think it's kind of dead in the water, or do you think that this team can still figure out a way to still be that one of those final 7 and get in?
I think the fact that we beat the Ravens this week puts us in great position to still be just as much in the running as we were before. The Steelers don't have a quarterback. The Bengals look like crap. Like all we had to do in order to secure this spot within our division was beat the Ravens, and we did that. So I think that Deshaun Watson holding it out this game and getting us that win, and also the fact that this, like I said, whether it be like a new injury but still an injury that he's been battling them this season, I think that kind of laid out the way for PJ Walker to slide into this new now for the rest of the season responsibility. It's a little bit more weight on his shoulders to carry this team, but he's had to put a game on his back before, and he won us that game. He won us a game. So I don't think that it'll be as difficult or as shocking of a transition. Now, if something happens to him, then the sentiments I'm sharing right now would change dramatically. But I think that we still have a really good chance of going to the playoffs, as long as the Steelers or the Bengals don't end up being insane, making an insane turnaround. So
yeah,
Well,
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
So I can see you guys realistically finishing with 11 or 12 wins. And if you finish with 11 or 12 wins, you should be in the playoffs. And your defense is good enough to get you there as long as your quarterback plays mostly mistake-free football. PJ's shown that he can do it. I'm waiting for DTR to show up. I watched him for 5 years, and that kid is special. He just has to figure out an NFL defense.
No, he's definitely someone whose name you should be looking out for, because I think that, especially given the vitality, is that how you say volatile, of Cleveland in the quarterback position, he's going to be getting some minutes in. So people are really going to see how talented he is. I would also like to mention that one time I made a joke about defining a relationship, and someone thought I was talking about Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So his talent is definitely well known.
Well, here's the thing. It says something about how the organization and how Stefanski feels about him, is the fact that they already named that he was going to be the starter this week. So, there is some confidence. It also tells you the Browns have also, one of the things that makes the Browns a great team, in my opinion, or a playoff caliber team, is because there's not an identity issue here. They know who they are at this point. They've through 9 games, they've kind of shown you who they are. They're a team that's going to punch you in the face. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. Kareem Hunt looks a little bit better and better every week as he's kind of sort of reacclimating himself back into this system, because he was gone and he's back. Jerome Ford, it's lovely
seeing Kareem Hunt's talent being validated.
And then in combination with Jerome Ford, they make a really good 1-2 punch. They're going to run the ball so that they're going to try to take pressure off of DTR by running the football first, probably trying to get him out of the pocket, use his athleticism a little bit. So, and when you look at their upcoming schedule,
and we still have Amari Cooper too. So,
and you still got Amari Cooper. You still got David Njoku running around there. Every time he had to play this, and honestly, that was the moment I knew they were going to win the game. He caught a ball, and then he dragged people for 17 yards. He had me standing in front of the TV going, because it was like Black Panther all over again. The way this dude, he will do something every game that's like, oh, that's just more of a man than everybody else on the football field. So
And if it's not that, it could be Myles Garrett hitting someone in the head with a helmet. It could be
or just the idea that like there was a play that this poor old lineman, you poor son of a bitch, you like he tried to block Myles Garrett and he just ran this man over, killed Lamar. Lamar didn't even have a chance to even and mind you, that says something about Lamar Jackson that he can't escape because that's all he does. He just didn't have a chance. And like I said, I've had the image of Myles Garrett with that chain on. All it lives in my brain because I'm like, this is the face of that franchise. And you know what? When you look at their upcoming schedule, Steelers, yeah, obviously that's a big game this week. They go on the road for the Broncos. They go on the road to face the Rams, the Jags, the Bears. They after that 5-game stretch, if they're sitting at 8-6 or 9-5, they can kind of figure out a way to win 3 out of those next 5 games. They're still right there in the mix because 10 or I think 11 is the magic number to get into the playoffs in the AFC because it's so stacked. But they can figure out a way to get to 11 wins. If they can go 11-6, which I think is possible, they could get in. But there's also a flip side of that coin that also deserves a conversation. And Arshavir, we'll start with you here. The Ravens, as great as they've looked, this is starting to become something that's a stench that sort of is attached to this team. They're 7-3, but all 3 of their losses this year, they had fourth quarter leads and blew them, including 2 of those games like this one this week, and they had double-digit leads in the fourth quarter and still found a way to lose. Going back to 2022, they have 6 losses in which they blew double-digit leads. Everybody remembers that shootout they had with Miami where they had a huge lead in the Dolphins that kind of ignited the whole Tua for president thing last year when the Dolphins came back on them in that game in Baltimore early last year. But going back to 2021, going back even further, this team has 9 losses in which they had a 7-point plus point lead in the fourth quarter, which leads the NFL. So the question I have is who's to blame for these Ravens late game collapses? We know this team can score points. They score them in bunches. They look great. And this is not a situation in which they lost a game in which they didn't look good. Like I said, a lot of what they did looked great. Zay Flowers looks like he's trying to challenge for Rookie of the Year. Odell caught one of those Odell-like touchdowns that we've been waiting to see him have in a Ravens uniform, where he caught a slant pass and did what he did back in the day when he was on the Giants, where he'd catch a 7-yard slant and take it to the house. So everything about the team looks great. They didn't particularly play terribly on defense, but somehow we're still having this conversation about this team blowing another lead. So who do we lay this in the lap of?
That's the coaching staff. For me, that's 100% the coaching staff. And the reason is you see the play calls change. You see them take their foot off the gas. You see them not doing the same things. And at that point, it's like, why are you doing that? I mean, I loved a lot of what Kellen Moore did, but that's a Kellen Moore special. Cowboys would get up big, and then they'd fade in halfway through the third quarter into the fourth. Because the offense would get conservative. They wouldn't keep attacking. They weren't mixing it up enough. For me, it's the coaching. I mean, head coach, OC, DC, all of it.
Yeah, that's the part. So here's a question I'll ask you, Kaylie, because I know you, although you are Browns through and through, you bleed orange and brown. I know you have an affinity for Lamar and the Ravens. Is this cause for concern? Do you think that this is something, an issue that could keep them from being that top team in the AFC and going to the Super Bowl?
I mean, every team in the AFC is a contender for the playoff spot. And there's still potential for any of the teams to have it and take it. But I think that right now, sitting at the top, I think still above the Browns is probably the Ravens. I mean, and even losing to the Browns, yeah, that's tough. I mean, you go in playing the Browns, you come out black and blue, but they are still a very talented team. They played a really good game. Like realistically, until the end, I was still holding my breath, not knowing which way it was going to go. It's not like the Browns shut them out or made them look bad. We won by a very lucky field goal, and this conversation could be going completely different had we not gotten that stop at the end of the game, had we not pushed so hard in the fourth quarter. So I don't think that this one loss is worth it to say like, oh, the Ravens better be shaking in their boots over the playoff spot. But that's because even at the beginning of the season, all throughout this season, it's been the same situation. It is a competitive division. So no one should feel too secure, but no one game could completely put you out of it. It's still anyone's game.
Well, speaking of insecure, as we move into our next headline, there is a team that is feeling pretty insecure. Their fan base is starting to feel a little bit insecure about things, and that is the Buffalo Bills. Monday night, we saw at Highmark Stadium, the Buffalo Bills lost the late thriller to the Denver Broncos. The question that I have coming out of this game is obviously the Bills have been very up and down this year. They've been very inconsistent. They were a team that a lot of people had earmarked as the team that probably coming into the season, they were the sexy pick of who could stop Pat Mahomes, who could stop the Chiefs from getting back to the Super Bowl. And a lot of people pointed at this Buffalo Bills team because they were loaded on both sides of the ball. They've got the Madden cover boy at quarterback, but that Madden cover boy, he leads the league in interceptions, leads the league in turnovers with 14, leads the league with, like I said, in interceptions with 11. So a question that I have is it fair to start questioning if Josh Allen is an elite tier quarterback in this league just based on the way that the team has played? Yes, there's a lot that is put on his shoulders. Yes, they have some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but quite frankly, when I watched this game, there were decisions that he made that kind of call into question if he's in the right positions to lead this team the way they want to go. So that's my question, Arshavir. I'll throw it to you. Do you still consider Josh Allen to be an elite tier quarterback, or is his turnover prone ability sort of taking him out of that conversation?
You know, that's a tough one. I recognize he hasn't had the kind of protection he did in years prior. But you're right, he's not making the decisions the way he should be. This is a guy who we expected to bring just more than not just elite, but like a level of leadership that I didn't see against a weak Broncos team. You know, it's not, Sean Payton and working his magic. Okay, he's gonna do things. He's a good coach, but if you're Buffalo, something's got to give. And hell, OC got fired, so I don't know. I think he's been around long enough. He's got to figure something out. This guy has thrown. Here's the thing: he's thrown 71 interceptions.
Yeah, he leads the league in picks since he's been a starter.
Yeah, and it's not pretty at all. So maybe we overblew how good he really is.
Here's my thing. I think it's time for us to start to look at Sean McDermott and whether or not it's time to replace him at the helm, because I'll tell you why. The reason why Josh Allen sort of ascended to that elite position is because, let's call a spade a spade. The guy who was sort of in charge of him during that 2-year span, during that time, that game that essentially made the NFL change the playoff rules because he never got a chance to get his hands back on the ball when they went to Kansas City. That guy's over there coaching in New York right now, Brian Daboll, and he hasn't looked the same since he left. Now, granted, they placed a lot of that blame this week at the feet of the OC who got fired, Ken Dorsey. But here's my problem. When I watched that game, is it Ken Dorsey's responsibility when, yes, Josh Allen turned the ball over late in the first half, but Ken Dorsey doesn't run the defense. He didn't call a soft cover shell defense that basically allowed Russell Wilson to hit a 10-yard pass over the middle that basically gifted Denver 3 points before the end of the half. Ken Dorsey doesn't run the defense that thought it was a good idea when the Broncos had no more timeouts at the end of the game when they were trying to drive down to get that field goal to win the game. That wasn't Ken Dorsey that went cover zero and sent an all-out blitz. And Russell Wilson, first of all, you do that if you're playing the other Wilson, if you're playing Zach Wilson. You don't do that if you're playing Russell Wilson, who knows what to do in that situation, which is, there's no deep safety help. I'm going to throw this thing up to my receiver and hope that the Buffalo DB doesn't turn around. And what did he do? A pass interference, puts the ball inside the 20, and basically you gifted Denver this game. That's not on the offensive coordinator. So you can blame all these other places. That's on the guy who runs the defense, which is also the head coach. Last year, you fired Leslie Frazier because it was his fault that the defense wasn't great. Now, now you're running and you're calling the defense. How many? There's no one else to blame here. For your shortcomings.
Exactly. And also 12 men on the field on the field goal.
On the field goal. So you missed the field goal, but then there's 12 people on the field. That's Ken Dorsey's fault. Like, you fired him. Unless you're telling me that he told the 12th guy to go run his ass out there, that ain't on him. So my thing is, yes, Josh Allen needs to play better, but Josh Allen also needs to be put in positions to where his strengths are highlighted. And he needs someone in his ear to tell him, like, hey, when you're trying to use your rocket arm to throw in the triple coverage, how about we don't do that? How about you just eat it and throw it away and we live for another play? So we can put a lot of that on Josh Allen, but I think Sean McDermott's job might be time for the Buffalo Bills to make a change, because obviously we know how it works in the NFL. You got a high-priced quarterback, an elite quarterback, versus a head coach. If someone's going to go, it ain't going to be the quarterback. It's going to be the coach. They're going to get somebody else in there. But
I mean, at this point, they're on the verge of missing the playoffs.
Oh no!
If they miss the playoffs, I think McDermott's out.
Well, that's why this game this weekend is very, very tricky for Buffalo, because this is a game they have to have, and they're going to be playing a pissed off Jets team that at this point is just ready to take some shit out on everybody they play. Especially if my job is on the line, I don't want to see Quinnen Williams and his little brother and his big little brother Quincy coming after me. I don't want to see that this week. I don't want to see Solomon Thomas coming straight from a Broadway play, coming to kick Josh Allen's ass. I don't want to see Sauce. I don't want to see Tahir Whitehead. I don't want to see none of these guys. That's not the team you want to see, an angry, pissed off Jets team when we need a win, because if they don't win, I think you can kind of write the season off for Buffalo, and then we got to really have some conversations. But real quick before we move on to our next headline, I do think I think the Broncos are a pretty interesting talking point. Not that I think that they might be a real threat to make the playoffs, but if you look, in fairness, I know you as a Raider fan don't want to have any positive Broncos talk, but they've won 3 in a row. It's starting to look like Russell Wilson has finally been beaten into submission by Sean Payton, and he's starting to play the way he wants him to play, which is get the damn ball out of your hands and stop running around like you Fran Tarkenton or some shit. 3-step drop, get the ball out of your hand, get the ball to your running backs, get the ball to Jerry Jeudy, get the ball to Cortland Sutton. Stop all this running around or willy-nilly. Did it again. We said willy-nilly again. Stop running around all over the place. Get the ball out of your hand. Take what the defense is giving you And in turn, it's actually helping the defense play better because they're not on a field for long periods of times because now the Broncos are extending drives. They're starting to look like what we thought they might be able to look like. Can this team steal a playoff spot? Rapid fire, you go. What do you say, Arshavir? You think this team can steal a playoff spot?
No, I don't think so because they'd have to leapfrog Vegas and the Chargers. There's too many teams for them to leapfrog, and I don't see them beating Vegas in the rematch. So no.
What about you, Kaylie? You think they can kind of weasel their way in?
I mean, no, I agree with Arshavir. I think it's an exciting run, maybe a wild card spot, but they're not winning the division.
Hey, and I'll say this before we move on. I don't think they're going to get in, but they have worked themselves back into a spot to be a nuisance because if you look at the upcoming schedule, yeah, this game with Minnesota all of a sudden has some juice to it, which I for sure a few weeks ago when I looked at that game said that was going to get flexed out of a primetime spot. But now with the Vikings being 6-4 and them being right back there at 4-5, there's some juice to it. If they can win that game and get back to 500, then the next couple of games after that against the Browns and the Texans, the two teams that are in front of them, they can kind of leapfrog them if they beat them. I'm just saying the Broncos might be a team to kind of pay attention to. Speaking of someone who is drawing lots of attention, I just mentioned him just now talking about upcoming schedules. The Texans go on the road and beat the Cincinnati Bengals. The Texans are firmly entrenched in that playoff hunt. Spectacular. CJ Stroud did it again, back-to-back weeks, a late drive or some fourth quarter heroics kind of puts the tough team away. So my question coming out of this is, yes, we know he is running away with Rookie of the Year, but should we be considering CJ Stroud for MVP consideration, seeing as how he's helping take a Texans team that we did not think were going to be in the mix at all, and this guy's putting up, I mean, historic numbers. He's only the second rookie ever with 400 plus yards and 5 touchdowns in a game with no turnovers. Should we be talking about his name in MVP talks along with Rookie of the Year? What do you think, Kaylie?
Rookie of the Year for sure. MVP, let that be next year.
If he gets them the division title, I think he's going to get MVP votes. Do I think he wins? No.
Yeah, and I get excited talking about CJ Stroud. You know, we've had conversation. We'll talk on a Sunday night, and the first thing I'll tell you is he did it again. I've been doing it for weeks. CJ Stroud. Oh, this guy. Like no one's supposed to come into the league as a straight up rookie and do what he's doing the way he's doing it. Peyton Manning didn't come into the league his first year and do this. Patrick Mahomes sat his first year, but even when he started, yes, we saw the flashes, but we didn't see comebacks coming down the field like as Shador says in Brady mode, the way CJ Stroud has done, and it has really transformed the look of this franchise. But again, flip side of the coin, the Bengals lose a game they really needed to win, especially coming off the heels of that Niners win before the bye week. Are the Bengals in jeopardy of missing the playoffs? Because now, as we've talked about, in this division where you've got the Steelers at 6-3, where we've got the Ravens at 7-3, where we've got the Browns at 6-3, you've got 3 tough teams in your own division. You've got other teams that you got to contend with. Now the Texans actually will have a tiebreaker over you if they catch you. Is this team in jeopardy? Is it really possible that a healthy Joe Burrow will miss the playoffs? Kaylie, what do you think?
Given the way that the Browns and the Ravens look this year, I mean, and I don't want to put it all on Joe Burrow. He wasn't healthy the whole season. So to their credit, I guess you could say, it has been a tough year. Coming and the turnaround from last year and years prior, where they were looking at Super Bowls, it could be a little disappointing if you're a Bengals fan. I'm not, so I don't have those problems.
What do you think, Arshavir? Is this team? Should you be worried if you're a Bengals fan that your team might actually not miss the dance?
Yeah, be worried. Definitely, they should be worried because they've got Ravens.
Oh, that's a big one. That's
Yeah.
a huge game for a random Thursday night the week before Thanksgiving, by the way.
Yeah, it is. So they've got the Ravens, and then next week they've got the Steelers. So it's in division these 2 weeks, and these are crucial games.
Must win.
Must win. If they can't pull this out, then they're not going to make it. And that's what I think. And I think the Ravens are pissed, and the Ravens are going to want to beat up on somebody.
Ooh.
So it's a bad week to play the Ravens.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what's even more concerning is as Joe Burrow has gotten healthy, guys have started to sort of drop like flies on the defensive side of the ball. Now you're talking about having to play a Ravens team this week, and they're not going to have Sam Hubbard or Trey Hendrickson on that D line. It is a little alarming, concerning because, like I said, unfortunately, we knew coming into the year with how stacked the AFC was, there was going to be a team that had real Super Bowl aspirations who might not make that top 7, especially with now the emergence of the Texans kind of wrecking shop a little bit when we thought maybe it was just going to be Jacksonville coming out of the South and that was it. So you didn't have to worry about anybody else sort of kind of getting into the mix. But yeah, Buffalo and Cincinnati are two teams that now all of a sudden kind of seem like they sit in peril, and it's going to be interesting to see how it shapes out. Now, speaking of another team in peril, the Lions beat the Chargers at SoFi to improve to 7-2, and I got a simple question for you guys. I asked you guys 3 weeks ago, and you guys scoffed. You scoffed at my Lions take. You scoffed a bit. I asked you guys if you guys were on the bandwagon, and you both hit me with the 13 and 3 in the last 16, but half of that was last year, and I need to see more. The Lions are 7-2. Yeah, I remember. I keep receipts. They're always up here. I remember what you said to me. The Lions are now sitting at 7-2. Are you guys ready to jump on the bandwagon yet? Are you guys ready to put on your Man Campbell t-shirts and cut the sleeves off and drink and power through 2 Americanos black and the way Man Campbell does every week? Put your diapers on, as he said yesterday in a press conference about when I'm calling plays. Put on your diapers because you might shit yourself because I'm balls to the wall. Are you guys ready to jump on the bandwagon yet? Is this Lions team a real threat to make the Super Bowl? Are you guys ready to jump in there yet? Arshavir, you start. What do you say?
Super Bowl? And this is what I said last time. I was like, Super Bowl? But actually, no, the way they're playing now, they really could be a team that is a Super Bowl contender. And I mean, I'm looking at the rest of their schedule, and it's soft.
Especially playing in the North.
Yeah. Bears, Packers, Saints, Bears, Broncos, Vikings. So that's the interesting. They get the Vikings back to back at the end of the season. But this team very well could be 13-3, 4, 14-3, 13-4. So I'm there. Yeah, I'm there. I'll buy it.
That's what I'm talking about. Kaylie, what do you say? Because if people haven't figured this out yet, let me explain to you guys real quick how this works when you're dealing with me. I am a Jets fan. So to protect my own heart, my own interest, and for me to continue to love football and not hate it and want to throw it in the trash every year, usually what I do is I scan the league and I pick a pet team. I pick a team that I'm going to hitch my emotional wagon to, because ultimately the Jets are going to break my heart every year. This is what they do. So I have my Jets, and then I'll have a team that I sort of attach myself to emotionally.
You have a sweetheart team?
Yes. And Man Campbell is the guy that coming into this year, just based on what they did at the end of the last year. I also owed him a debt of gratitude because they beat Aaron Rodgers the last week of the year, which probably opened the door for us to get him. So I also owed him a debt of gratitude for that. But I just love the makeup of this guy. I love the makeup of what they've done with this team. So that's why when I look at them, I say, this could be people thought it was crazy to put Cincinnati in that conversation immediately with Joe Burrow when they started to turn around and we saw what happened there. I feel like it's similar with this situation. So, again, I'll ask you, are you ready? I just picked up Arshavir. Kaylie, are you jumping in? I got one more seat on the bus. Are you jumping on the Detroit Lions to the Super Bowl bandwagon?
Well, I'm not going to put on a diaper anytime soon, but I will I will hop on the bandwagon. Because it would be a sight to see Man Campbell give you an early Valentine's Day gift this year.
And also, it's a great story that we're talking about a franchise. There's only a handful of franchises, the Lions and the Browns being two of them. That's why there's a part of me that would love to see a Lions-Browns Super Bowl.
You know I love a good underdog Cinderella story, so.
Because it's always cool, and for teams who've never gotten there to get there. And like I said, this has been a franchise that's never even sniffed getting to the Super Bowl. But I do think what's key for them is going to be, can they get the number one seed? Like Arshavir, you brought up, they have a soft schedule that gives them sort of a leg up against some of these other teams, like San Francisco, for instance, who got after the game this week, they've got two games in 3 weeks against Seattle, so they're going to have to get through that. Philly still has to deal with Dallas. We're not really worried about the South. So there is a path for them to end up being that team that gets the number one seed. And if they do, I think that gives them the best shot of getting to the Super Bowl. If they can just win 2 games at home and have people have to come play in that building, which we know will be rabid if they get to actually be the host, that's their best chance to do it. That's the way they can upset the apple cart.
Now, before we move on, though, you latch on emotionally to a team. I latch on emotionally to players, and because I know my teams are they have broken my heart for 30 years, so I get where you're at. I do.
Absolutely, but again, there's a flip side to this, and that is the team that the Lions beat at so far. The Los Angeles Chargers lose another one down the stretch. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and ask the question: is it time for Brandon Staley to go in LA? This is like week after week after week. It feels like we're still sitting here having the same conversation. Like I said, I rooted so hard for Detroit to win this game because, like I said, the Chargers were running around in New York City as if they had won the Super Bowl when they beat the Jets, when everybody knows we playing with one hand behind our back at the quarterback position. And then you come home and have a chance to continue that momentum, and you wet the bed again, sitting here watching. Like, sometimes you forget Khalil Mack is on this team because at this point, how do you continue to keep coming up short, especially on the defensive side of the ball, when you have Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on this team and Derwin James running around back there? With the amount of talent that's on this Chargers team, is it time for the Spanos Trust to say, we got to move on from this guy? What do you think, Kaylie?
100%. 100%. They're like, just like you said, there's no reason why we should, not we, they're saying that because we live in LA, but there's no reason why this team shouldn't have a better record. They've got so much talent, and there's just not exactly, it's just not good play calling. They're giving up games. They're giving up games in the second half, fourth quarter, that they could have very easily in the first half of the game or even into the third quarter have come back and shut the lights out. So, it's time to make some changes, and I don't think it's entirely on the roster.
Yeah, Arshavir, what do you think? Is it time to dump this guy?
It's high time. And I remember the first time you asked it, I kind of pushed it out to past midseason. Well, we're past midseason, and he's 4-5. But I think they let him finish out the season. It's not a dump. That's the thing is, it's not quite a dumpster fire yet. They'll move on at the end of the season. They'll let him finish out.
I just think there's time. I think similar to what we saw with the Raiders. I think it's time for a bit of an emotional change to what's going on there. And to me, I'm not saying he would be a permanent solution, but I'm at a point where I'm like, let's get this guy out of here and let's let Kellen Moore run the thing for the rest of the year. Because one, it can't be any worse. Two, man for man, obviously it's hard to say because what Pat Mahomes has done, but roster for roster, this team is as talented as any team in the entirety of the NFL. And for them to be sitting at 4-5 and not being able to figure out how to win games at the end of the year, coming off of how the season ended with that huge collapse in the playoffs at Jacksonville, coming off of the huge collapse the year before against the Raiders at the end of the year. How many times can you beat your head against the wall with this same stuff before you do something different? Because like I said, at the end of the day, the window will close very quickly. You're not going to be able to keep all these high-priced guys around all together for that longer period of time. And you're going to look really terrible if you had Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, all Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, who you might lose at the end of this year because that guy wants to get paid. Justin Herbert, you had a whole core that was designed to go after Kansas City, and you might get nothing out of this. So, but anyway, I digress. Those were the headlines for the week. It has been interesting so far, and what has also been interesting is our weekly picks. We've had a little bit of movement, not much. We all pretty much had a really good week last week. To update the standings for everybody, your boy is in first place at 36 points, 27-9 overall. Kaylie is in second place at 28 points, 24-12 overall record. And Arshavir is right on her heels at 27 points, 21-15 overall. Me and Arshavir both still have our double down and triple downs in play. Kaylie used her double down. Not the success, but she still has a triple down at some point if she feels the need to do so. So it's still anybody's ball game. I'm not running and hiding just yet. Although your boy did have another perfect week. But not here to brag. But
I had a perfect week too.
Kaylie had a perfect week too. All right. So it is time for our weekly picks. Who would like to start?
I'll go. I got this. I feel good this week. I'm going to go Detroit over Chicago, San Francisco over Tampa Bay, Seattle over LA, and my luck. Doing it 2 weeks in a row, and I hope they don't break my damn heart again. Dallas over Carolina.
Okay. All right, Kaylie, what you got?
I'm gonna do the bandwagon thing this week. Let me save that for last. I'm gonna do Texans, Seahawks. I don't want to say the 49ers because they do the opposite of what I say every time. But we'll take the Niners this week, and I'm gonna make the Lions my lock of the week.
Okay. Yeah, this week. Yeah, I had some soul searching to do a little bit with some of these games. There were some games that I felt a little bit more confident than others. So I'm gonna start with the ones that I were pretty confident of. I'm taking the Lions over the Bears. Even if Justin Fields plays, I just think the Lions are rolling now. I think they're going to handle business as they barrel into hosting duties on Thanksgiving. I'm actually going to, as much as we just crap talk them, I'm actually going to go with the Chargers over the Packers this week. I think the Packers are struggling a bit. I think the Chargers are due for a big performance. They better have a big performance because if they go on the road and lose this game, I do think this might be the week that Staley gets let go if they don't get back to 500. So I'm going with them. I think as much as I've been talking up CJ Stroud, this is the week I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I recognize this is a bit of a risky pick because Kyler Murray looked like he had never been injured at all this past week with the way he was running around. But I think it's something positive. I think it's something good going on with the Texans there. So I'm gonna go Texans over the Cardinals. And for my lock of the week, man, I just can't overlook what the 49ers did in Jacksonville. They went to Jacksonville and they tied fire to Jacksonville's ass. I'm gonna assume they're gonna keep that momentum going. Fred Warner and a couple of guys on that defense said, hey, the reason why we lost 3 in a row is because we started 5-0 and we got complacent and that pissed us off. I think they're going to beat the crap out of Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. So my lock of the week is the Niners over the Bucks. All right. Good luck to everybody on their picks. And like I said, every week we try to switch it up in the last segment, try to have a little fun, do things a little different. Guess what time it is, guys? It's trivia time. Your boy has come up with a trivia game. I picked co-host against co-host. And this week, how you guys feel about mascots? Everybody loves mascots. I love mascots. I love the fact that the Browns have 75 different iterations of a mascot. So that's what this trivia game is all about this week. We are doing mascot trivia. Again, like I said, these trivia games aren't necessarily to test your knowledge, just a little bit of common sense and things that you think might make sense. So it's all going to be multiple choice. I'm going to give you 5 questions, and there'll be a question for a bonus point at the end. We'll see who wins. Good luck. Question number 1. Of the 32 NFL teams, how many do not have a mascot? A, 3, B, 5, or C, 7? Kaylie, what do you think? 3, 5, or 7?
3?
What do you think, Arshavir? 3, 5, or 7?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 3 as well.
Oh,
5.
5 teams don't have a mascot. Neither of you get the point.
Wait,
Mm-hmm.
who are they? Who are the 5?
That might have something to do with the bonus points. Let's just keep that in mind. Let's keep that in mind.
I don't think that's right.
We're gonna circle back to that one.
Okay.
Question number 2.
Do we get a double point if it turns out that it's actually not 5?
Oh no, listen.
And if we can name the mascot?
I'm new to this. I'm true to this. These are things that live in my brain. That's what this trivia question is about. Trust me, there is no question I'm asking you that I did not do extensive research about because I have no life. So it is absolutely 5. But don't worry. Like I said, we're going to double back to that one for a bonus point. Question number 2. Big Red is the mascot of which NFL team? A, the 49ers, B, the Kansas City Chiefs, or C, the Arizona Cardinals?
The Cardinals.
What do you say, Arshavir? The Niners, the Chiefs, or the Cardinals?
Cardinals.
You both are correct. It is the mascot of the Arizona Cardinals. Big Red is a big red cardinal who has been the mascot of the Arizona Cardinals since 1998. You learn things on this show. Question number 3. Swoop is the mascot for which team? Is it A, the Atlanta Falcons, B, the Baltimore Ravens, or C, the Philadelphia Eagles? What you got, Aaron? What you got? What you got, Arshavir?
Swoop. I'm gonna say Falcons.
Okay, Kaylie, what you got? Swoop, is he the mascot for the Falcons, the Ravens, or the Philadelphia Eagles?
It's not the Ravens for sure. The Falcons? I don't even think Falcons swoop. I think they glide. I'm going to say the Eagles.
And you would be correct. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. Swoop is the mascot of the Philadelphia Eagles. And a fun fact, in Swoop's official bio, it says his diet is mostly consists of smaller birds like cardinals, falcons, and ravens. That's a real thing. I like that.
All right. I like that.
Got him.
Question number 4. The Cleveland Browns have a live dog named Swagger as one of their official mascots. What type of dog is Swagger? Is he A, a bull mastiff, B, a bulldog, or C, a pit bull?
He's a bulldog.
What do you think, Arshavir? A bull mastiff, a bulldog, or a pit bull?
I want to say Bull Mastiff. Though, this is Kaylie's team, so.
It is a bull mastiff.
What? He's
He
not even
is-
that big.
He's a bull mastiff.
He is
Swagger
not
is
that big.
Swagger is a bull mastiff that was born in 2013 and weighs a hefty 120 pounds.
Oh, you mean like the current one?
Yes.
Oh, man. Because the logo is for show a bulldog.
Yeah, no, the logo is a bulldog.
You know what? Because Swagger, like they change, obviously, because dogs don't live forever here.
Yeah.
But I was doing extensive research around the time that they were picking the latest Swagger, looking for dogs and the Cleveland local shelters that I could submit to be Swagger because I was getting ready to adopt Yeezy, a sibling.
Listen, that's a Browns fan through and through. That's somebody that cares about their team.
Well, Swagger's also just like a dope name for a dog too. Like you can't script that. And he's my he's my football team's mascot. Get out of here.
All right. Question number 5. Which unofficial mascot for the Los Angeles Chargers announced his retirement in 2018? Was it A, Megawatt, B, Boltman, or C, Voltage? The unofficial mascot for the LA Chargers that announced his retirement in 2018. He was an unofficial mascot. This is essentially a guy who would go to every game and he was dressed as his own mascot, similar to how Raider fans do. He would get all crazy and dressed up and became synonymous with the team. What did he call himself? Megawatt, Boltman, or Voltage? What do you think, Kaylie?
Megawatt is, I can't even imagine that. There's just too many ways that mascot name could go wrong. So I really hope they thought about the marketing before they named a mascot that. But Voltage, man, what was the other one?
And
Not
Boltman.
Megawatt.
Megawatt, Boltman, or Voltage?
Boltman seems the most kid friendly. I'm gonna go with Boltman.
What do you say, Arshavir? Megawatt, Boltman, or Voltage?
I'm on the Boltman ride.
You both are correct. It is Boltman. Boltman was an obsessive fan who had been dressing up since the 1990s, but sadly said his heart wasn't in it anymore after the team announced they were moving to LA in 2017. So he put the uniform away, took the bolts off the side of his head and said, bleep this team.
I don't blame him.
So you guys are tied 3-3. So this works out perfectly. Now it's time for the bonus question. As we talked about in question 1, we're working our way back around full circle. 32 NFL teams, 5 of them do not have a mascot. Can you name one of the 5 who do not have a mascot?
Well, the Commanders didn't even have a name until a couple years ago, so probably them.
Okay.
They have is Charlie Commander a mascot?
All right, that's a point for you. All right, there's 4 left. Arshavir, can you name one of the other 4 who don't have a mascot?
Yeah, the Packers.
Ah, yeah, the Packers probably.
That's a point.
Cheesehead? Does Cheesehead not count as a
No,
mascot?
No,
fans
they
are
don't.
cheeseheads.
They
but
don't. And they
have
don't have an
actual-
official mascot only because it was the stupidest name ever given to a team because they were named after a meat packing company.
Did the Chargers have a new mascot now that it's not Boltman?
No, they never filled. They never replaced Boltman. So that's
So is that
that's
one?
Yeah.
So
Other
they
teams
so
on
but
transitions.
officially, if you go to Chargers games, they do have like a weird person who kind of dresses with bolts on their head who kind of unofficially took the mantle. That's why they don't really fit in the category of teams who don't have an official mascot. So they're not one of the 3 remaining. So I'll pass it back to you, Kaylie. Can you name another? There's 3 left that don't have a mascot. Can you name one of them?
What about, do the Giants have one?
No, they do not. They don't have
that's
one.
a
That's
totally
another point for
terrible missed
you.
opportunity. Who is working in their marketing office?
Seriously.
Hire me. I've got ideas.
All
All
right.
right, Arshavir, there's 2 left. There's 2 left. Can you name one to keep the game going? Can you name one?
You know what sounds like they wouldn't have a mascot currently? The Jets.
You would be correct. The Jets
Oh,
don't
neither
have a
of them
mascot
have a
either.
mascot?
But
Wow.
also another team that named themselves after an inanimate object. So what would you do? Just dress somebody like a jet?
Well,
So
because
neither the Jets or the Giants had mascots.
my high school was the Rockets, and we had a mascot. So I was deciding between the 2 New York teams, and because they both, thought it could be either one of them, and I was like, well, Rockets, Jets, like I feel like they'd have a mascot, like maybe
right.
Tom Cruise is their mascot.
So to make this fair, there's 1 team left. So I'm going to count to 3. Whatever your guess is, you just say it on the count of 3. All right. If one of you gets it, you win. Neither of you get it, it's just a tie. All right. Let me know when you guys are ready. Don't say anything yet. This is how we make sure we make this fair. If you have a guess, let me know. You guys have a guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Count of 3. Just say it out loud. 1, 2, 3.
The
New Orleans.
Panthers.
You said Panthers. What did you say, Arshavir?
It's New Orleans.
No, neither of you got it.
Oof.
The game will end in a tie. The only team left that wasn't named that doesn't have an official mascot, the Rams.
Oh, really?
Nope. The Rams do
Really?
not have an official mascot.
Wow. But they did.
Yep.
In
So
St. Louis.
both of the big markets
Mhm.
have no mascots.
No.
What's going on?
That is insane.
But yes,
And you know what's really effed up about that is that they could have one guy doing all the games, just putting on a different suit.
yeah.
So
But-
wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they used to have Rampage? When was he retired?
When was Rampage retired?
Because I could pull it up, but I remember when the Rams came back to LA, you saw Rampage everywhere. It was like part of their marketing.
Oh, okay. I guess you know what? That's my fault. Maybe that was an oversight by me. You know what? That was an oversight by me. You know what? All right. I got to make good.
Okay.
I got one more.
Oh
I got
gosh.
one more question in the tuck. You guys ready?
All right, here we go.
Let me pull it up. Let me pull it from my little sheet. All right. According to his online biography, what is the favorite song of Houday, the mascot of the Cincinnati Bengals? Is it A, Wild Thing? Is it B, Welcome to the Jungle? Or is it C, Who Let the Dogs Out?
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, well, yeah, welcome to the jungle. But Kaylie said it first, so if that's right, she'll get the. I'll give her the point.
That is correct.
Yes.
Kaylie wins.
I even said at the beginning of the pod, I said, if it's something to do with the uniforms or the branding, I'm on it.
And yeah,
You got it this week. A couple weeks from now, I'll reach back into the bag of tricks. I'll have another random trivia. I've got a bunch of these. It's just fun to kind of mix it up when we get to the end of the show. And that will conclude another episode of the Sports Telegram NFL edition. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, leave comments. Let us know what you want us to talk about. If you think there was something big in the world of football that we may have missed, hey, listen, we don't got all night. We could do this all night, but we don't got all night to talk about everything. Leave a comment. Let us know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, if you like what you're hearing. Hit that notification bell so you know when these go up. We have a lot of fun doing these, bringing you the water cooler conversation that we have off air so you guys can kind of be a part of what we're talking about here. Thank you guys for listening. It's been another episode. For me, Kenny Hodges, with senior editor Arshavir Saryan, senior correspondent Kaylie Harden. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time. Peace.
And if you're looking for a job, you can make up to $65,000 per year being an NFL mascot. And we just told you which teams are currently hiring.
Yeah, the Giants need one. I don't know how you don't have a 7-foot tall man just walking around in a Giants uniform. That's easy. That's easy, Brandon. Peace, guys.